There are a lot of videos showcasing Yunjin's amazing support capabilities, but what if we wanted her to be a DPS? I'm your host Ano, and I will be showcasing Yunjin's DPS and support DPS capabilities. This is the Yunjin DPS Showcase. Although Yunjin's primarily a support, we can tap into her damage potential by using these two sets, Gladiator's Finale and Bloodstained and Pale Flame. Now you might be wondering, can I use Retracing Bolide, Shimenawa's Reminiscence, or any other defense and attack sets? Yeah, I wouldn't suggest it. The problem with those sets is because Retracing Bolide requires you to have shields at all time, and while Crystallization Reaction is a thing, it's not really gonna help us this time. Now, we do have Shimenawa's, and that definitely could work, but you'd be losing out on energy, which Yunjin really does need in order to pump out her extra damage. Now, let's get to our sets. Since the beginning of the game, I haven't really used Gladiator's Finale because it didn't seem necessary, but with Yunjin's normal attacks, it seems like it might be cool to use. One key component to this build is the craftable weapon Crescent Pike, or using Dragon Spine Spear, though I haven't tested that. Later on in the showcase, I'll be borrowing this set from Jinyan to use it on Yunjin.
She is very gorgeous to me!
Yunjin Showcase! Sorry, couldn't help myself. Anyways, getting back to Yunjin Showcase. Now I'll be fighting Masanori, and we are gonna wreck his shit. And now from here, the showcase truly begins. Musical Starto! And that was Gladiator's Finale, but I feel like we can push it a bit higher. 5k is nice, but we can definitely go higher, right? Also, let's bring attention to something real quick. So Crescent Pike's whole passive works based off of energy particles that you collect, and then you get that small buff. Every time we attack, you see that 549? That's part of Crescent Pike's buff. And that 549, it looks small, but it adds up really quick. Yunjin Showcase. So we swapped over to the 2-piece Bloodstained and 2-piece Pale Flame set, but the only problem is we don't have enough crit. So for the first time ever, I'll be using a crit buff. I haven't used a single one since the beginning of the game, so this is going to be very interesting for me. And we will begin our tests right here, right now. Once again, music Starto! And that's about it for these two sets. Yunjin's normal attacks are pretty strong, getting up to 6k when she's buffed up, but this also includes the effects of Superconduct. So just remember that when you try this build out. I wouldn't say you should necessarily go for this set for like meta reasons, but if you just want to have fun, I feel like this is pretty good. Moving on to talents, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that you'll be investing into normal attack, then burst, then skills. If you're wondering why, you shouldn't, but your normal attacks are scaling from physical damage, and then your burst is buffing you up with normal attack damage, so obviously you need to increase those. With your skill, not quite, because it's not really doing much other than the counter and energy particles, but that's about it. Breaking conventions is a really interesting passive because it makes use of 4 different elements on a team. You could use other buffers like Bennett and Goro, but Goro shares the same element, but the defense bonus could bump up your burst. My favorite section. So we're back to Yunjin, and she's a perfect support for buffing up normal attack with defense. Since we're doing sub DPS or DPS, we're still using that support, but now we gotta find out who's gonna support us. And our first contender is this small child named Chi-Chi. Now, Chi-Chi gets a lot of hate from the community because we kinda don't want to see her in our pity rolls, but one way we can make use of her is putting her on this team. What we could do with Chi-Chi is when she has a talisman on an enemy, all we have to do is normal attack and we'll be getting health, and health is great. But also one thing with Chi-Chi is her skill. While her skill is up, we can safely get Superconduct while healing ourselves. On top of all this, with the new healing set, the more you heal, the more physical damage will be released onto the field. So put that set on Chi-Chi while using this set. It will be perfect. We have a cryo unit on the team, but now we need an electro unit so we can proc Superconduct, which brings us to Fischl. Now Fischl can be replaced by Beidou or Raiden Shogun, but we're just going to use Fischl for today. And also, Fischl can be a physical damage dealer while utilizing her normal attacks. So keep that in mind. For our last slot, I'm picking 2 DPS that really needs the help. Child is a great DPS, however, if you're C0 like me, he takes some time getting back his melee stance. So, during that downtime, you can use Yunjin as your main DPS, and then when Child's back up again, you can just switch on back to him, do crazy damage, and you're having yourself a fun team. One cool thing about this team is making use of 2 different reactions, Electro Charge and Freeze. I did say that there are 2 DPS that we can utilize here, and this DPS I don't have, but here's what you can do. Yoimiya specializes in normal attack damage, which is really good because Yunjin buffs that, and also with Fischl you can cause overload reactions. With Chi-Chi on the team, I'm not sure what you can really do there, but that's up to you. Now I wasn't going to talk about Toma because I really don't like how his shield works, but his constellations do help Yunjin's normal attack, or really just everyone's normal attack, so we'll talk about that real quick. He's only really useful on this team once you hit C6, because that's when he gets his whole normal attack, charge attack, and plunge attacks increase whenever you have his barrier up, but that's if you really want to use him and have Yunjin as your real main DPS. Yeah, that's about it. I don't really know how to end this. See you.